introduce is Jason Kishineff, who is an activist whose causes have included in Solano County and Napa County the No Orsum campaign in Vallejo, protecting the watersheds in Napa County, justice against police violence in Vallejo, which included lobbying assembly members in Sacramento for the passage of AB 392, protecting American Canyon wetlands and neighborhoods from a proposed road connection, supporting pride flags and official government buildings throughout Napa County, promoting a glyphosate ban in American Canyon, allowing recreational cannabis access in Vallejo, American Canyon, and Napa County. Jason is a former pharmacy technician, a stay-at-home dad. He graduated from St. Augustine School of Health Sciences. He lives in American Canyon with his wife, and he has 3 sons, one of whom lives in Chico, and 3 are still at home. And I'd like to now introduce Jason Kishineff.
Thank you. I'm Jason Kishineff, and a lot of people ask me why I would decide to run against Mike Thompson, because you know, he's done a lot of good things for the district, and he's a super nice guy, and I appreciate your being here, Mike. Some of the good things he's done for this district include protecting Berryessa Snow Mountain, his work on mental health care, and his hard work on gun control. But look, the people of this district, like most of the rest of the people of this country, are being strangled by the power that billionaires and corporations exert over our political system and economic system. In Vallejo, when we were fighting to stop Orsum America from building a cement factory in a mostly minority residential area, where was he? The people of Rodeo are trying to stop the Phillips 66 refinery from expanding their permit to allow them to process tar sands oil, the dirtiest, heaviest oil possible. Where is he? In Napa County, where he is also a constituent, we've been trying to protect our hillsides from deforestation, from the wine industry. Where is he? Measure C needed support to protect our watersheds. Where was he? In Benicia, when a small group of dedicated Benicians were fighting to get Valero to pay for air quality monitors, where was he? And with PG&E shutting off people's power ahead of windstorms because PG&E chose to give $500 million to their shareholders that they got from the Public Utilities Commission instead of maintaining and improving their infrastructure, where was he? In each of those struggles, he took money from the corporations that the people were struggling against. He's taken money from Valero, Phillips 66, Jumpstart PAC, which was supporting Orsum America, a lot of wineries in the Napa Valley, and 50 donations over a 20-year period from PG&E. So what does a politician promise anyway for these kinds of donations? A company does not donate more than $60,000 in 50 donations without expecting some result, but we don't get to know. All we know is that there's a whole lot of silence, a whole lot of, that's a local issue. But our campaign really isn't about being anti-Mike. It isn't about being anti-Elizabeth either. It's about the kind of transformation of our system that is possible when we remove corporate interference from our political system, a healthcare system that focuses on health rather than profits, a college education system that sets our children up for success instead of decades of debt, a foreign policy which doesn't treat our children like cannon fodder for wars over oil and other resources, a criminal justice system which treats everyone equally regardless of their race or economic status, and a progressive tax system which reverses the austerity and trickle-down scarenomics that both parties have used for 40 years to transfer wealth to the top. It is difficult, yes it is, to get bills through Congress, to be sure, but politicians who take corporate money are part of the reason why it is difficult. Who is truly opposed to a healthcare system that covers everybody and cost trillions of dollars less. My opponent's drug and insurance donors, that's who. The people of this district deserve someone who is going to lead on deforestation, lead on clean air and clean water, lead on single-payer health insurance, lead on criminal justice reform and on homelessness, and lead our electoral system away from the influence of corporate money. Thank you.
Now I will introduce Mayor Elizabeth Patterson as the surrogate for Mike Thompson, but let me read you a little bit about Mike Thompson before I do that. Mike was elected to Congress in 1998. He's a member of the House Committee on Ways and Means, serving as chairman of the Select Revenue Measures Subcommittee and as a senior member of the Health Committee. He is co-founder and co-chair of the Bipartisan Congressional Wine Caucus, member of the Congressional Sportsman Caucus, member of the Blue Dog Coalition, co-chair of the Bipartisan Military Veterans Caucus. He led the effort to improve treatment options for service members suffering from PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Mike was named chair of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. One of Mike's top priorities in Congress is to create jobs and grow the economy. He has co-authored numerous pieces of legislation to improve our nation's infrastructure, boost our renewable energy economy, and better our education system. He's authored bills to help veterans find work as they make the transition back to civilian life, and he's co-authored comprehensive immigration reform. He's also worked to ensure equal rights for same-sex couples and has co-authored legislation that gives state and local law enforcement the tools to prosecute hate crimes. Prior to serving in Congress, Mike was a Vietnam veteran, was the first Vietnam veteran elected to the California State Senate in 1990. He served in combat with the U.S. Army as a staff sergeant, platoon leader. He is a small vineyard owner and was the maintenance supervisor for Barringer Winery. He taught public education administration and state government at SFU and Cal State Chico. He received his master's in public administration from CSU. Mike and his wife Janet have 3 grown children, and one's a firefighter and one's a sheriff. Elizabeth, Mike's surrogate.
So thank you very much. It's my privilege to be here, and it's not because I'm mayor, but because I used to work for Mike Thompson when he was in the state senate. And I used to work for him because I was loaned by a state agency to, as a result of my former boss, who just passed away, by the way, to develop a program to protect our rivers, to make sure that they have the public trust values that we want. So I am reading my words. He sent me a very long letter that would take more than 5 minutes. He said, as he had just landed in DC, that he trusted me. So these are my words based on what he had written. And so he wrote, "Dear friends and fellow Democrats, I am sorry I cannot be with you tonight, but work has me in Washington, D.C. for legislative votes, and as you know, some important business is going on Wednesday. It has been a privilege for me to serve alongside so many of you, working to better the lives of our neighbors and community members of the 5th District. My record shows that I support the Progressive Democrats of Benicia's goals of promoting progressive ideals and equality for all. Because of our new majority, the 116th Congress has passed nearly 500 pieces of legislation aimed at improving the lives of people in our community. Everything from reforming our election system and getting big money out of politics to legislation to raising the national minimum wage to $15 an hour, which would improve the wages of over 33 million working people. The fastest, and by the way, I should note that one of the things about his current job is he works in the federal government. He doesn't work in local government, and he doesn't work in state government. So these are his statements about what he's doing on the job for us in federal government. The fastest and most efficient way to help save lives and prevent gun violence right away is universal background checks for all purchases of guns in any state. As chair of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, I introduced H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2019. It passed the House in February 2019. the first major piece of gun violence prevention legislation to pass the House in a generation. I am fighting to have Senate Majority Leader McConnell hear this bill in the Senate, and will fight until the day this bill is signed into law, be it this president or the next president. As chair of the Select Revenue Measures Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee, I'm leading a state and local tax, known as SALT, working group to bring relief to taxpayers in our district and across our country who were harmed and continue to be harmed by the changes to the state and local tax deduction under the flawed Republican tax plan enacted last Congress. It is my privilege to be a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. This bold and aspirational statement is about the steps we must take now to save our planet. Nothing else will do that we do matters, as we won't have a livable planet to pass on to the next generation. I'm proud to support Climate Action Now Act passed by the House that would prohibit the president from withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. I was endorsed by the Sierra Club for my re-election because, in part, of my leadership on important environmental issues, such as written and have signed into law legislation that permanently protects over 709,000 acres of land. As a member of the Migratory Bird Conservation Commission, I have helped conserve more than 1.36 million habitat acres and introduced bills to reauthorize the North American Wetlands Conservation Act and the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which, by the way, included the first West Coast Western National Heritage Area. I'm working to pass legislation to strengthen and expand access to high-quality, affordable health care that strengthens protections for people with pre-existing conditions. As a senior member of the House and Ways Means Subcommittee on Health, I'm fighting back against Republican-led attempts to weaken the Affordable Care Act. Health care is a basic human right. I am co-sponsor of Medicare for All, and by community extending anti-discrimination protections in 2019 HR 5. And let me see, for these reasons, I have earned the endorsement of every mayor, every supervisor, every sheriff, and every district attorney in our district. I respectfully request your endorsement and your support in the upcoming election as well. Know that I will continue to stand with you in working to ensure equal rights and fairness for all. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, Mike Thompson, Member of Congress.
Questions to propose to both of you. This is to both. Regarding the Corps of Engineers 13-mile dredging project plan for deeper channels through San Francisco Bay to Stockton to enable oil tankers to move greater amounts of crude oil, including tar sands, to and from Bay Area refineries, do you support asserting congressional oversight over the Corps to suspend this plan and provide an independent review of the additional risks posed? Greater risks of oil spills, increased greenhouse gas emissions, and the additional toxic burden on the Bay Area's refinery corridor.
I'd be happy to answer that question. Are we timed on the answers?
Yes, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Mike has been opposed to as a member of the California State Senate and also as a Congress member in Congress for dredging as well as for any offshore drilling. So he would take any action that would be necessary to try to deal with this plan that was approved in 1965 by the Army Corps of Engineers through the Water Resource Development Act, which is called WRDA.
With all due respect, that's really not true. When I asked Mike Thompson to please oppose this dredging, which I absolutely vehemently do, his response to me was, I have always worked for dredging.
Is there a rebuttal?
Sure. He did use a whole minute.
So what he means by that is that in order to restore the shipping or some types of shipping in Vallejo, you need to dredge the estuary. And they don't do that for that kind of work, they do it for oil companies.
No, actually, I asked him to specifically oppose this dredging, and that was his response. And in fact, he's taken $17,500 from Phillips 66. So it's no surprise that he is not actively opposing this action.
Well, Well, that segues perfectly into the follow-up question. This is for Mayor Patterson. According to campaign financing records, you have accepted financial contributions from the Phillips 66 PAC, the PG&E Corporation, and the PG&E Corporation Employees PAC. Please explain accepting these political donations in light of your outspoken support for the passage of the Green New Deal.
Based on the information I have, it's illegal to accept corporate money. It's illegal to accept PAC money. That's the definition of PACs. And it's illegal to accept money from foreign sources. So I have no idea where that information comes from.
That information comes from the FEC website. If you go to it and search Mike Thompson, you can see his corporate donor list. It is not illegal to take money from PACs. That's what PACs do. His corporate donor list is like 150 pages long and includes all of those companies, as well as Coke Industries, Walmart, Facebook, tobacco industries, all kinds of energy companies, foreign drug companies, insurance companies, and Wall Street brokers.
And the written rebuttal is our campaign refuses all corporate money, no lobbyists, no billionaires, no super PACs, and it's illegal to accept contributions from corporations or super PACs. Last cycle, nearly 90% of Mike Thompson's contributors were individuals with more than 2/3 of his contributions less than $250.
Okay, Jason, does your campaign accept financial contributions from PACs or from fossil fuel companies?
My campaign accepts no corporate money, no PAC money, no super PAC money, no corporate lobbyist money, no money from billionaires, only small individual donations.
Okay. Mayor Patterson, according to a recent report of your campaign contributions for the current election cycle, 61.9% of your contributions come from PACs, while only 6.8% are from small donors of less than $200. How do you plan to increase contributions from small donors?
So I think there's some confusion by the person writing the question, because I just got through reading that it's illegal to take PAC money. It's illegal to take corp money for this for campaigning. Perhaps it's because they see it as the independent contributions, and again, I don't have that data, other than that the individuals, the last cycle, his contributors were individuals with more than 2/3 of his contributions less than $250. So I'm happy to get back to you with accurate information.
Okay.
Clearly, Mr. Thompson's surrogate is confused. He's taken all kinds of money from all kinds of PACs, including all kinds of sugar PACs from all over the country. Minnesota Dakota sugar, Florida cane sugar, Michigan beet sugar. What are the sugar companies getting in exchange for these donations?
Okay, well, that one's sort of up for grabs. We'll have to do some more research on that. But that was the last question that we have, prepared question we have. We can take questions from the Progressive Democrat members in the next couple of minutes.
Any questions from the audience? Yes.
Yeah, hi. Sorry if this question comes from a position of ignorance, because I'm new to the area. I'm delighted to have moved to Benicia. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
At the risk of overusing a very much used word these days, which of the two candidates is more electable come November?
Well, generally incumbents carry the edge. And also because Mike is known as one of the hardest working congressmen in Congress. That was his reputation in the state legislature. The reason he's able to accomplish what he does is because of his ability to, from his experience and his education, to get pieces of legislation through. This Congress is a little bit easier now because of the majority, but he has been successful in getting bipartisan legislation in as well. Because of that, he has broad support generally because he meets a lot of people's needs in terms of, in my particular issues, are environmental, clean water, clean air, fair elections, all of that he works on. His passion is reducing gun violence, and he has worked tirelessly to accomplish that, and people appreciate that. Those are the issues that matter to them. That's what they want to see get done. and he has a rather positive attitude when he goes about doing it.
Jason?
Mike's been in there for 20 years, and a lot of people think it's time for change. Our movement has been growing since 2017. You ask the question, who's more electable? The truth is, electable is in your minds and your hearts. The person that's electable is the person you vote for, the person that moves people to go to the ballot box and vote for them. When you ask who's more electable, it's generally a question that supports the establishment. It's like, don't allow, alternative voices to be heard. We know this guy, and he's a nice guy when we shake our hands and he comes to our events, but it's not really looking at the records. Who's electable is up to you. It's just not up to, a group think decision.
Thompson?
Jason, if I may ask, what elected offices have you held?
I have not held elected office, and I like to rephrase that or reframe that and say I've not been corrupted by the corporate political machine yet. I did run for office against Mr. Thompson in 2018. I did not make the primary, and I ran for city council, and I didn't win that either. But, we're not giving up.
Yes?
Can I respond to Constance? I'd like to tell a short story. I'll try to make it really short. Is when Mike was in the state senate, he wanted to provide public access along the levees on the Sacramento River. And at the time, there was an agency called the Bureau of Reclamation and Reclamation Board, and they denied it. And so he zeroed out their budget in order to provide public access to public paid for levees and maintenance on the Sacramento River. That's the kind of person Mike is.
Yes.
Yeah, for Jason. So you haven't held an elected office. When you were speaking, you talked a lot about some great ideas, but you didn't give us anything as to how you would accomplish those ideas. What do you intend to do? I don't want to hear about what you don't want to do. I want to hear about what you intend to do and how you intend to do it.
Thank you. I was given 5 minutes, and generally when opposing somebody who's pretty popular, you have to say, hey, what's wrong with this guy? So I needed to include part of, talk about his voting record. What do I want to do? I want to pass single-payer health care. I want to oppose war for profit, regime change war. I haven't heard of a war that was just since World War II.
I agree with you, but
I want to pass
how are you going to be
tuition-free.
effective doing that?
I want to pass tuition-free college education. I'm sorry, what?
How are you going to be effective doing that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The same way as any other representative will be effective doing that, traveling around, speaking to people, campaigning for it, talking to other representatives, trying to form coalitions and get agreement. There are a lot of people that are in favor of single-payer health care. Are you asking how we pay for it?
No, I'm not asking that.
Because I can go down that road as well. Did I answer your question?
That's good enough, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Jason, last time you ran as a Green Party candidate,
That's correct.
and then you switched your registration to Democrat.
That's correct.
Why did you do that?
Okay, so I was a longtime Democrat even before I went green. I went green because I was frustrated about what happened with the Sanders campaign in 2016. I don't feel like that was the wisest choice that I made to run as a green. And I went blue because people think you're their enemy when you don't have a D next to your name. Even if you may agree with everything I say, if I don't have a D next to my name, you think that I'm part of a different tribe. And that kind of, people have to learn to have these conversations without getting angry at each other and looking for reasons to divide. We're all connected. We're all brothers and sisters, even the conservatives. So I want to add to that while it looks like, okay, I'm not loyal to the blue party or loyal to the green party, what I'm loyal to is my own personal values and the people of this district and this country.
Dan?
I'm not that familiar with the Blue Dog Coalition other than knowing that it's basically moderate Democrats. But
So I'm not too sure I got all that question.
He was talking about Mike's membership in the Blue Dog Coalition, and Dan's understanding of the Blue Dog Caucus, I guess it is as moderate Democrats. So how does Mike reconcile his position on supporting the Green New Deal with the other moderate Democrats in the Blue Dog Coalition?
The Green New Deal is moderate. We tried it. It's called the FDR New Deal. It worked. That's what he has supported. It's having the incomes distributed so that we have good education for everybody, not for a few. It's very easy to support the Green New Deal because it's been proven to work, to create jobs and prosperity, to raise all of us up and not just a few. So that is why. And Blue Dogs are not the 0.01%. They try to be moderate because they do want to work across the aisle. They do recognize that there are places in the United States that have a different view of some of our social norms and what have you in California. That's what I loved about working for Mike. We were dealing with needing Republican votes to do watershed legislation in the legislature. And if you take an extreme side and a position and not willing to work, then you don't make as much progress. The bipartisan bill on reducing gun violence with universal checks is bipartisan. It's not a Democrat bill, it's not a Blue Dog bill, it's not a Cornhusker bill, it's a bipartisan bill. That is the genius of people who are willing to reach across the aisle and to work with many others.
Jason, you want to make a comment about working with
Sure.
various elements within the party and other members of other parties?
Okay, so Mike is a Blue Dog Democrat, and although he did co-sponsor the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez version of the Green New Deal, he continues to vote for more oil drilling. Twice this year, continues to vote for expanding the military and military interventionism. The military is the #1 polluter in the world. In 2008, Mike was one of only 13 Democrats to vote against H.R. 6899, which would have prohibited most new offshore oil drilling in California. That was when he was proudly voting with Republicans. So when it comes to the environment, when it comes to the Green New Deal, there's no middle ground. There's no we have to find compromises with the people that aren't, that are in favor of the destruction of the planet for profit. No, there's only protecting the planet. That is all there is.
Got time for one more question. Any other questions? Okay.
So to be accurate, Mike Thompson's vote on H.R. 16 passed with 94% of the vote. This bill will ramp up American support for Europe's energy security and reduce dependence on Russia, including financial support for projects that better connect European energy networks and improve energy efficiency. And he has voted against drilling and is on record for doing so.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Let's give a hand to vote.